Whenever you do any kind of mission nowadays, there always seems to be a vault in your squad. But why? What makes one of the 3 starter frames so popular? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Versatility. Vault can do pretty much anything if you build him for it, and he will do it well. I mean, just look at his kit. Every single one of these is good and useful in some scenario. Shock might not seem like much, it does a bit of damage that's scaled with power strength, it chains around to up to 5 nearby enemies, and the chaining range is affected by range, so it can actually chain quite far, and it's a relatively cheap ability that can be made even cheaper with efficiency. But add in Shock Trooper and suddenly you're providing an absolute ton of electricity damage to you and nearby allies, because Shock Trooper scales with strength. The base duration on it is also 40 seconds, so it lasts for a long time as well. Next on the menu we have speed. This is what Volt is known for, he's just a fast boy. But speed doesn't just make you go fast. It provides movement speed, yes, but it also increases your reload speed and melee attack speed, all of which are affected by power strength. It doesn't last a very long time, 12 seconds at base, but that's nothing a bit of duration won't fix. Additionally, the speed buff is applied to any ally that's within 25 meters of you when you casted, which is affected by range, so you can provide this buff to surrounding allies as well. Speed is incredible, it allows you to blast through missions very quickly, it makes weapons with obnoxiously long reload speeds bearable, and it buffs your melee DPS through the roof, especially now because of auto melee, since you never have to worry about having too much attack speed anymore. It's also a very cheap ability, 25 base energy is nothing, especially since it goes even lower with efficiency, so you can easily keep this up 100% of the time. Now there is an augment for speed, it's called Shocking Speed, and it zaps nearby enemies when you rush past them. This isn't amazing because the scaling on the damage isn't all that great, but it can be used for bomb rushing low-level missions, where the low amount of damage is more than enough. Then comes Electric Shield. This is a pretty interesting one because it doesn't scale with an awful lot of stuff. It allows you to plop down up to 6 shields that will block enemy fire. They last for 25 seconds at base, though this can be modified with power duration. The cool thing about these shields is that if you or your allies fire through them, the shots gain 50% bonus electricity damage and double crit damage. Even cooler, the bonus electricity damage stacks, so if you fire through 2 shields, you get 100% electricity damage, though the crit damage doesn't stack, obviously. That would be broken. Now, while the bonuses you get from firing through the shield don't scale with strength and the size is always constant regardless of your range, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It means you can play around with your range and strength without affecting the effectiveness of the shields. And finally, you can also pick it up and carry it around like a riot shield. Now, it does shrink quite a bit when you pick it up, but still. Now, the main thing about these shields is that they are indestructible. There is no health bar or anything, they just block any projectile the enemies try to fire through them. And yes, there are augments as well. We have Recharge Barrier, which will restore 35% of your or your allies' shields when you walk through one of the shields. And Transistor Shield, which allows your allies to pick up the shields as well, which is very nice, but it also charges your passive whenever the shield takes damage. And finally, we have Discharge, which I can only describe as incredible. This sends out a wave of electricity, which has a base range of 20 meters and is affected by range, that stuns any enemy hit for 4 seconds, which is affected by duration. These enemies will then zap enemies within 8 meters of them, which is affected by range, dealing electricity damage, which is affected by strength, with strength also affecting the initial damage of Discharge. This can kill or crowd control an entire room full of enemies with a single cast. And it synergizes insanely well with Archon Stretch. It is pretty expensive, 100 energy per cast, but this can be modified with power efficiency. And there is still more. Capacitance. An incredible augment. It's very simple actually. It takes 3% of all the damage done by Discharge and converts it into shields and overshields that are then split evenly amongst you and your allies. This, with shield gating and the recent shield buffs, makes Volt pretty beefy. This kit is the reason why Volt is so popular. He's incredibly flexible. Want a ton of extra damage for your weapons? Just load up on Strength and slap on Shock Trooper. Wanna go fast through exterminates, captures and sabotages? Load up on Strength and maybe a bit of efficiency and run with speed. Wanna do really fast eye-down hunts? Just put down a shield and shoot through it. Wanna do easy 8 zones of Sanctuary Onslaught or snore through defense missions or destroy survival missions? Load up on range and strength and spam Discharge. There's nothing Volt can't do because he has access to damage, defense, crowd control and speed. Add on top of that the option to subsume another ability over something like Shock if you don't need it in your setup, and you basically never have to run another Warframe. I think that's one of the things that draws people towards Volt, because you can either just set up this frame for that, this frame for that, this frame for that, and this frame for that. Or you can really focus on vault and do pretty much everything. Even to me, someone that plays the game for a living, that sounds really good. Switching through different frames to do different missions efficiently is nice, but so is having a main that you can practice and be good with. It just makes sense that vault is everywhere, because vault can be everywhere. Even endgame, like endgame, level cap stuff. If you watch some of the videos, a lot of people use vault, because the enemies will never outscale speed and crowd control. Now, as far as vault builds go, that's up to you, because you need to decide what you want to do with vault and then construct a build around that. My favorite vault build is a capacitance nuker that goes very heavy on range and strength. Even though it doesn't really look like it, because most of the strength actually comes from Molt Augmented. This is a tremendous arcane for damage-oriented casters because it provides upwards of 60% strength at maximum rank when fully stacked. And the other builds are pretty straightforward. If you want to focus on speed, you want to get a lot of strength, so you get a nice speed multiplier. If you want to get into Eidolon hunting, I would recommend some defense so you don't die too fast before you get used to it, as well as Shock Trooper to buff your guns for the Synovia phase. For capacitance nuking, you want to run a build that's similar to mine, and if you want to do level cap stuff, you're better off looking at a different video, because I have no interest in doing level cap stuff, so I have no idea what kinds of builds those guys run. So there you go, the reason why there are vaults everywhere is because it's a very accessible Warframe that can do pretty much everything. It just makes sense. He's really good. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful, and if you have anything you would like to add to it, feel free to leave a comment down below. Then I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, and if you would like to become a channel member as well, by the way, you can check out the memberships and stuff down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.